Hi, I'm John Crawford and I'm blind. Well, it's Sunday night and I feel a little silly making those two videos I made about the end of TikTok, but here we are and it's all good. So it's story time. Sunday night seems like a good time for a story. I'm going to talk a little bit about my experiences as a young legally blind kid trying to ride a bicycle, and why I think my parents made the decision that I didn't need to have a moped. If you don't know what a moped is, it's this motorized scooter kind of thing that was very popular in the 80s. After you hear this story, you're going to realize why I think my parents ultimately made the decision not to give me a vehicle that could travel up to 35 miles per hour. Anyway, I rode my bicycle a lot when I was a kid. I would go to my friend's house and whatever. And riding a bicycle when you don't see very well is a very dangerous undertaking anyway. But I particularly had a lot of trouble at night. So a lot of times when I would go to my friend's house, I had to be careful to make sure that I left well before it was dark so I had time to get home so that I could still see what I was doing. Because once it got dark, I was in big trouble. I sometimes even had to ask the parents of my friends to run me home or be picked up with my bicycle. It was always kind of embarrassing. So I always tried to be out of there before it got too dark. Well, this one evening, I had stayed a little bit late, and this happened to me sometimes. I would see the sun starting to go down. I had lost track of time or whatever, and I'm going, oh crap, now I got to get home. And so I got out of there as quick as I could. My house was maybe a quarter to a half mile away at the most. I was riding my bike as fast as I could, trying to get home. I was on there were no shortcuts, so I had to ride home on the street. But fortunately, it was a residential street and not a city street. So I was okay there, but I really had to book it on home. So I was riding my bike, and along behind me came a car. And what happens next, I think, was quite deliberate. So if you were the driver of that car, I'm just going to say to you, you know what you did. You thought it was funny to make a blind kid do what happened next. And the reason I'm pretty sure it was deliberate was because of the way the driver of the car behaved. The car pulls up behind me, and his brights come on, his or her brights come on, and I started trying to get over. I was thinking this guy was going to pass me or whatever, but the car didn't pass me, and I could see well enough to tell. I mean, I could see headlights and stuff as I'm riding home. It's definitely getting dark, and I need to be getting home, so I'm really pedaling along. This guy is not passing me. I can see that there are no cars. There's no reason for this car not to pass me. So as I'm riding along, I can tell that the car is now getting closer to me and getting up beside me and scooting me, kind of causing me to scoot over and scoot over and scoot over and scoot over gradually further over to the right. What happens next makes it very clear what that person was doing. I barreled right into a mailbox as I'm riding. I didn't see the mailbox coming at all. I'm paying attention to this car that's up beside me. I hit this mailbox, and the next thing that happened was really weird. I spilled over the side of the bike with my knees still hanging over the bar, and now I'm hanging upside down, and I'm looking straight up at the sky, and my knees are folded over the bar. I'm about 12 years old at the time, and I don't have a lot of upper body strength, so I'm trying to pull myself up, and I'm hanging there like an idiot. And actually, this is kind of comical in a way, but still, this was a very dangerous stunt for the driver of this car to pull. Anyway, I'm hanging there like a moron, and I can't pull myself back up onto my bike. Then all of a sudden, I'm hanging there for a few minutes, and this car drives by, and then all of a sudden I hear him hit his brakes, and then he backs up real quick, and as he's driving by, I'm yelling, "Hey, help!" Okay, and I'm thinking, oh crap, there he goes, I'm gone. I'm gonna have to figure out how I'm gonna get out of this mess. Well, anyway, he does back up, and he stops, and this man gets out of the car. He never says a single word to me. He never says hi, or are you all right, or let me get you out of there. He never says a single word. He's breathing kind of hard. I think his stress level was pretty high. He may have thought I was dead or something, hanging there like that. Anyway, never says a word, but he does come over and he picks me up and he puts me back on my bike. Then he gets in his car and he drives away. Never says a word. I did say thank you. He never even said you're welcome or anything. He just helped me back on my bike and took off and never said another word. Anyway, so I got home and I was fine. Like I said, to the driver of that car, if you remember this incident, you know what you did and you thought it was funny. Anyway, moving on. I got a bad rap one time when I was riding my bike. I was getting ready to leave the house and I rode to the end of my driveway, and coming down the street in front of me where I could clearly see, it was daylight and I could still see cars and big things like cars. And so this car is driving down the road and it's starting and stopping. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Revving and stopping and revving and stopping and revving and stopping. And as the car is passing in front of me, I'm sitting still at the end of my driveway and I'm waiting for this car to go so I can pull out of my driveway and head down the street. My parents, knowing what my vision was like, didn't see what was going on, but they heard the brakes squealing, and I think some quote unquote well-meaning neighbor called my parents and said that they were worried that something was going to happen to me or something. I think they got a phone call about it, but I'm telling you, I was sitting at the end of the driveway. I was not in the street. The brakes screamed throughout the entire neighborhood, and I think some people thought that I had an accident because I had had a few close calls riding my bike where people honked at me or had to stop suddenly or something like that. And I think my parents got a few phone calls about me growing up riding my bike, and they thought this was another one of those incidents because my dad hollered at me about that one. But anyway, those kinds of things happen to me all the time when I was out riding my bicycle. And I'm just going to tell you that even though it was a pretty dangerous thing to do, I still had a lot of good experiences doing that growing up, riding a bike and going places and doing things. And it was worth it for the experience. I mean, yeah, we definitely don't want me to get hurt or anything like that out riding a bicycle. In fact, I had a friend that I still talk to that lived in the little town of Makawao on Maui when I was growing up. And I was talking to her recently, and she said, when you used to get on your bicycle with those thick glasses and you couldn't see a few inches in front of your face, I used to worry about you so much, and I used to pray for you every time you got on one of those bikes and started riding down the road. Lord, please don't let him get hit by a car. And so, yeah, that is probably why my parents didn't feel that my having a motorized vehicle was a really good idea. Well, that's my story about riding bikes and mopeds and all that fun stuff. It's Sunday night. You guys have a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.